Hello, everybody, and welcome to That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. I am your host, Bill Yankovy, and this week, I think the theme of this episode is change, because there are a lot of changes going on in the world of professional wrestling. Plus, going to preview this Sunday's NXT WarGames. It's no longer a takeover, folks. It is NXT WarGames. Gonna go through the card, make some predictions on that and much more. So, why don't I begin talking about these changes that have happened this week in the world of wrestling. And the first one I want to talk about is one that kind of hits close to home. A blog last night was posted by Dan McDevitt, who is the owner of MCW, Maryland Championship Wrestling. And I'd like to read what he wrote for those that have not heard. Thank you to Brian for posting this on our Facebook group, because we do have some fans on our group that are in the Maryland, the Baltimore, D.C. area, so I wanted to read this. It is with mixed emotions that Dennis Whiprecht and I announced that at the end of December 2021, there will no longer be MCW pro wrestling events at the MCW Arena in Joppa, Maryland. We were going to make this announcement at the Toys for Tots event this Saturday night, but decided to make the announcement before then. We have run almost close to 100 events at this venue since 2013 and have almost a decade of memories there with our performers, our staff, and our fans. The shopping center there is going in a different direction, and because of that, it's time for us to move on, and we are okay with that. We were not blindsided by this out of nowhere. We have had a heads up for a little bit and have had the chance to make some adjustments. The MCW Pro Wrestling Training Center will be moving and will continue to operate as is, but will not be in a building where we can also host events. We have an official press release on that in the next few weeks, as the new facility is going to be great for all of our trainees. We have a few facilities that we have been talking to. Several venues are making offers to us so that they can be the new home base for MCW Pro Wrestling. Stay tuned to all of our social media platforms after the first of the year, and we will be making those announcements. In the meantime, we are going to close this chapter of our existence out as only we can. We are adding an event to the schedule in Joppa on Thursday, December 30th, and tickets will go on sale for that event at this Saturday's Seasons Beatings Toys for Tots event. That show will be called Last Call at the MCW Arena. The reason we decided to make this announcement now is because we realize that some people may be traveling during the holidays and may not be able to attend Last Call on December 30th. If that's the case, then we want you to be able to make the decision to come out to the MCW Arena this Saturday night so that you can attend one of, if not both, of the final two events at the MCW Arena. The fans know me, they know I shoot straight and I don't work them. We have almost a decade of memories in this building, all of us with all of you. We are going to pull out all of the stops, and we are going to have two of the best shows in our company's history this Saturday and December 30th. I promise you that you will regret missing either of them. Professional wrestling is all about creating moments, and these next two shows, we are going to create a lot of them. Signed, Dan McDevitt. The first time that I ever went to the MCW Arena was 2015. It was 2015, and it was the Shane Shamrock Cup, which is the big tournament that they do here in Maryland every year. And that night, they had Roddy Piper there. And what we didn't know at the time was that it was Roddy Piper's final appearance at a wrestling show before he passed away. And Brian and I, we get to we get to the show. The line is long for Piper. Oh my God, it was a long line. And we were able to, get our pictures taken with him, and that's a memory that I have for the rest of my life. And this was the first MCW show because everyone, knew that I was a wrestling fan, but they'd always ask, had you ever been to an MCW show? Have you ever been to the Shamrock? And I never had. So, I kind of got two birds with one stone on this. And then eventually, I went with to a few more. Evolve had a show there, a couple of different MCW shows, and then they had the Tribute to the Legends event. And I was very proud to say that we were the show was a part of the convention every year for, I want to say, 4 years running before the pandemic really began. And, everyone there was really nice. Got to meet different legends, Magnum TA, The Fink, Manny Ramirez, Scott Hall, so many. And yes, when I read it did say shopping center, and I do want to explain this because it's kind of funny in a way, because next to where they were running the show was a flea market. I'm not kidding. It was a flea market, and you had to if you had to use the bathroom, you had to walk through the Amish, flea market, whatever you want to call it, and you go to the bathroom there, and you saw all these different shops that were closed. And when we did the conventions, there were a couple times where me and a group of other people, we'd sneak out for a little bit and we'd take a look at the stuff that they were selling, and it was kind of good stuff there. But the wrestlers that were there in that time, Leo Rush is the first one that comes to my mind. That was the night that he became a name in professional wrestling, was at the Shamrock Cup in 2015, because, unless you really knew him, not a lot of us knew of Leo Rush. But by the end of the night, when he won the Shamrock Cup, he became a household name, and he ended up, to bigger and better things. Velveteen Dream is another one. And then you go into Ring of Honor, Brian Johnson, Joe Keys, Moses and Khan from Shane Taylor Promotions. There's so many people. MJF wrestled there for a little while. Greg Excellent. I'm, naming as many people as I can off the top of my head. It was a very unique building. It's one of those buildings that is kind of like the ECW arena, where you had to be there to describe what the building is like. And don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing the MCW arena to the ECW arena. That's two separate places. But with the MCW arena, you had all these posters, several hundred seats. You had the flea market there. And it was just all around good family, environment. And I never, not one time did I ever feel like I was in an unsafe place. Never felt that way. And there were times, and you guys may have heard it in the past, where we, recorded bits and pieces for the show, either at the convention or in Brian's car on the way home. So that's kind of the good memories that I have of the MCW arena. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. It's kind of an institution up there in Joppa. It's outside of Baltimore, but it is an end of an era for sure for MCW. And I don't talk about MCW that much because it is a local promotion, but every once in a while you get something like this, you gotta talk about it, gotta report on it. Big news coming out from MCW. Well, speaking of changes as well, Rob Feinstein posted something yesterday. Good God almighty, Rob Feinstein. But I do have to talk about this, and this is kind of important in a way, and I'll give my personal thoughts in a moment. But this is what Rob wrote on Facebook yesterday on a completely different topic. The end of an era is here. In 29 days, RF Video will be shutting down our website and no longer selling DVDs. Is it the end of RF Video? Gimme a hell no! We will be doing something very special as everything will be going to our new website. Everything, for the most part, that is on RF Video now will be put on the new site for VOD, Video on Demand. Let's face it, DVDs are a thing of the past, and for us it is no longer worth it as we have moved on to bigger and better things for the company. We will still be doing shoot interviews and filming and producing new content from your favorite indie shows, and our collection will continue to grow, but you will not be able to buy in on DVD. So now is the time, guys, to buy any DVDs you might want to get from rfvideo.com, because after this month, we are shutting it down. I want to thank everyone that bought DVDs and VHS tapes from the 90s until now. We were the first company, and I am sure we will be the last, but now everything is digital, and it's time for us to make that transition too. Thanks, and have a nice day. Bang, bang! Wait, did I just say that? Okay, so basically RF Video is going video on demand, streaming service, pretty much that's how I take it. Kind of surprised it took those guys that long to do this, to be perfectly honest. They're very, very surprised. He was at those conventions that I talked about just a little while ago. Every freaking time did those conventions in Joppa, right next to us was RF Video. Every freaking time. And don't get me wrong, there was some cool stuff they had. They had an autographed Onita barbed wire bat. They had some really cool posters. They had replica belts. But to be honest, I kind of felt creeped out being next to Rob Feinstein because of, the allegations many, many years ago that he was into underage boys and all that. And he almost killed Ring of Honor, if you think about it. This isn't groundbreaking news as far as I'm concerned. I just think of it as this is just news. I know of people in the past who have ordered from RF Video and they've ended up getting like the wrong show, the wrong DVDs. And I want to say this, and I'm not bashing Rob because I've talked to the guy, a couple times. He seems like an okay person. I think he just thinks too highly of himself. That's kind of the vibe that I took, is that he thinks very highly of himself, and that could be kind of an issue in wrestling, because if you think too highly of yourself, then forget about it. You're going to lose a lot of people. But you know what? I mean, High Spots has had a streaming service for many years. Independent Wrestling TV, they've been going very strong for many years now. It's just, in a way, kind of surprising that RF Video is just now getting into this. And it's going to take a lot of work. I've seen their site in the past, and they have so much content. It is going to take a lot of work to get all those DVDs up onto a streaming service. So, if you're interested, I'm sure they'll put some details up as far as when their video on demand service is going to begin. But as far as I'm concerned, I really don't care. But I do know that there are people who, buy from RF Video, get their stuff from there. So good luck to them. Maybe things will go good for them, or just remains to be seen, I guess is the best way to put it. Alright, time to get into New Japan Pro Wrestling. I want to talk about both tournaments, and then I want to talk about the news that came out this week from Japan. And I will start with the World Tag League. They only had one show this week, so like I said, not a lot of change from last week, the way I talked about it. Here's the standings for the World Tag League. Right now, Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi are in first place with 12 points. Then we have a 4-way tie for second. Naito and Sanada, Goto and Yoshihashi, Great-O-Khan and Hanare, and Fale and Chase Owens are all at 10 points. Very interesting that Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens are doing this good. Tanahashi and Yano, Evil and Takahashi, and the Gorillas of Destiny are each at 8. And then you get towards the bottom, Kojima and Tenzan are at 4. Nagata and Tiger Mask, along with Hanma and Makabe, are at 2 points. And Suzuki and Michinoku are at the bottom of the standings. They have not earned a single point yet. Now, as far as this week goes, there is more action. It starts off this Saturday. They will have action there. That is going to be at 4:30 a.m. Eastern. Then they will have a couple days off, then be back in action on Tuesday. Again, a 4:30 a.m. start. And then they will have one on Thursday, December 9th, with a 5 a.m. Eastern time, which by that point, we're going to be very close to the end of the round robin stage, and we'll see who makes a move towards getting to the finals, which is only a couple of weeks away. Now, with the Best of the Super Juniors, here are their current update standings. Sho is in first place. He is at 12 points. Then we have a 2-way tie for second. El Desperado and Hiromu Takahashi each at 9 points. Then we have Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Taiji Ishimori, Ryosuke Taguchi, Bushi, Robbie Eagles, El Phantasmo, and Yo, who started out losing 4 in a row. They are all at 8 points. Master Wato at 6, and Dookie at the bottom with 4 points, but not quite out of contention yet. Now for the juniors, this week, they have action this Sunday with a 1 a.m. Eastern start time. And then they have another one on Wednesday, again, with a 1 a.m. start time, with one show to go next week. And by then, we will probably figure out who is in contention for the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. Now, like I said, there is some news with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it does concern actually the country of Japan because, as we all know by now, we have the Omicron variant of COVID-19, and Japan announced this week that they are closing its borders. The announcement was made on Tuesday that travelers could not come to the country, but it's a little different than the way it sounds. And I'll read a little bit from Meltzer's writing in the newest edition of the Observer newsletter. This will have some effect on the pro wrestling business. Basically, wrestlers who have already obtained working visas will be able to return, and it's been confirmed that Will Ospreay would be working the Tokyo Dome in the main event on January the 5th against the winner of Shingo and Okada from the night before. There was a 1-day period where New Japan officials were trying to get clearance for this, and there was no answer regarding those leaving the country or those not in the country. Those who have been in Japan over the past year, like the Gorillas of Destiny, Jeff Cobb, Aaron Hanare, Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Kenta, and Kevin Kelly, who will be staying in Japan from January through March and does the broadcasts in English, will all be allowed to come to Japan or in some cases stay in Japan. When arriving from a foreign country, there is still a 14-day quarantine before they can wrestle or appear at a show. New Japan President Takami Obari said that he confirmed with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that those with working visas would be able to fly in, although they will have to quarantine upon arrival, which means they would have to leave 2 weeks before their first match. Because of that, a lot of people now stay in Japan much longer and don't leave in between tours as they would have in the past. The travel ban relates to tourists, students, and people coming in for business reasons who don't have visas. It's also become pretty much impossible to get visas, so New Japan and other groups have not been able to bring in new foreign talent. So, basically, if you have a working visa, you're allowed to go to Japan. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter if it's pro wrestling, if you're working like business, stock market, whatever. As long as you have a working visa, you're allowed to go in Japan. And of course, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. And it's kind of interesting because Will Ospreay, he's been in the U.S. for a while. Same with Jay White. Jeff Cobb was over in the U.S. He was in Mexico just recently for CMLL. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. So they're going to be cutting it very close. And the way the cards are going to look for Wrestle Kingdom is going to be very, very interesting because who knows if there are going to be some big names that are going to be missing out on either night. I mean, Jay White is a perfect example. Is he going to be able to come? Ishii, is he going to be able to make it back in time? I mean, there's some talent that could miss Wrestle Kingdom because of the closure of the Japanese border because of this new COVID variant. All right, going back to the theme of change, Beth Phoenix announced this week that she is leaving NXT after this Sunday night's WarGames event. Beth took to social media yesterday and released the following statement on Twitter, which I would like to read at this time. Ahead of WarGames, I wanted to share that this Sunday will be my final night in NXT. While I will remain a part of WWE, I have made the choice to step away from the weekly broadcast booth to spend more time with my family. This was not an easy decision, as I have loved my 3+ years and 135 episodes with NXT, and am incredibly proud of the brand. Will forever be grateful to Vic Joseph, Wade Barrett, Nigel McGuinness, Tom Phillips, Mauro Ranallo, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Michael Cole, and my entire NXT family, both in and out of the ring, for the amazing opportunity. NXT will always be a part of me, and Auntie Betty will always be a part of NXT. Leave the porch light on for me. Beth was a good announcer. I mean, she wasn't the greatest, but she did add a little something to the commentary for NXT, and definitely from a women's perspective made it a little bit, a little bit better. So it's kind of a blow for NXT, but I think they will be able to fill the gap with a third person if they decide to stick with 3 people. Remains to be seen how that will be done. So we'll have to wait and see if, come Tuesday night, we get a new third person, or if it's just Vic and Wade Barrett for the time being. WWE news, they had to, unfortunately for you Canadian fans, they had to cancel their upcoming Canadian events that were going to take place in January. And this is news that came yesterday. I'm going to read a statement from WWE, and it's really not much of a statement as far as, why everything's happened. But basically, these are the changed dates for these shows. So if you had tickets to the following events, you might want to pay attention because you're going to get new dates. The SmackDown live event scheduled for January 21st at Canada Life Center in Winnipeg has been rescheduled to Friday, September 30th. The Super Show, which was scheduled for January 22nd at the Brandt Center in Regina, has been rescheduled to Saturday, October the 1st. The Super Show, scheduled for January 23rd at the SaskTel Center in Saskatoon, has been rescheduled and will now be WWE Live on Sunday, October the 2nd. And Monday Night Raw, which was scheduled for January 24th at Rogers Palace in Edmonton, has been rescheduled to Monday, September 26th. Tickets are currently on sale through Ticketmaster, and all originally purchased tickets will be honored for the rescheduled dates. Now, as far as who gets these new events, January 21st, SmackDown will be in Nashville, Tennessee. January 22nd, Super Show will be in Corbin, Kentucky. January 23rd, Huntington, West Virginia. And January 24th, the final Raw before the Royal Rumble will be in Toledo, Ohio. Impact Wrestling this week had a very interesting merchandise sale that I have to mention. And when I say it, I'm sure some of you are going to laugh. Some of you are probably going to scratch your heads. But this week in their store, they released a 2 VHS set of Slammiversary 2021. No, I am not kidding. They came out, released a 2-tape set of Slammiversary 2021. And this is where it gets even greater. All of them, every single copy of that sold out. They are all gone. It was a very limited number of video cassettes, videotapes, and they are gone. They are sold out. Every copy. It is unbelievable. This has to be one of the most unique decisions ever to sell in the history of history, because we're almost in the year 2022. We're in the day and age of Blu-rays, digital media, DVDs, and Impact decides we're going to sell this on videotape. I'm sure they have the DVD copy as well. But to do a double cassette of Slammiversary, and then for it to sell out, that is absolutely amazing. See, I told you, I've told people in the past, the videotape's going to make a comeback. But that's really cool news. A big risk, and they got a big reward. Okay, now to a little bit more serious news. WWE made an announcement yesterday of a new program for college athletics for people that, are playing Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 sports. And they don't make it to the pros, but they want to try their hand at WWE. So they came out with this announcement yesterday called Next in Line. And I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then eventually I will read a bit of the press release. WWE has announced the launch of a new program to create a, quote, clear pathway from college athletics to WWE. It was announced today that WWE has established an NIL program for college athletes. NIL, which is name, image, and likeness, deals allow athletes to profit off their name, image, and likeness while still in college. The first NIL deal in WWE history was announced this September with Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevenson signing with the company. The name of the program is Next in Line. I'll read a quote. Following a historic new policy by the NCAA effective July 1st, 2021, which ushered in the NIL era, allowing college athletes the ability to monetize their name, image, and likeness, WWE has constructed a comprehensive program to recruit and develop potential future superstars, WWE wrote. Dubbed Next in Line, the NIL program aims to enhance the talent development process through collaborative partnerships with college athletes from diverse athletic backgrounds. WWE's press release included a quote about the program from Triple H. It's one of the first public comments Triple H has issued since it was announced in September that he had undergone a successful procedure following a cardiac event. Triple H posted a tweet later that month saying that he was recovering, doing well, and was grateful for the support he had received. Triple H wrote, "The WWE NIL program has the potential to be transformational to our business. By creating partnerships with elite athletes at all levels across a wide variety of college sports, we will dramatically expand our pool of talent and create a system that readies NCAA competitors for WWE once their collegiate careers come to a close." WWE noted that its first class of NIL partnerships will be unveiled in the coming weeks. Athletes who partner with WWE will receive access to the Performance Center along with resources in brand building, media training, communications, live event promotion, creative writing, and community relations. Select athletes may be offered a WWE contract upon completion of the program. Okay. The name, image, likeness thing has become a big thing in sports this year, and obviously WWE is taking advantage of this opportunity. The thing here is there are times where you have athletes who, were at college that did really well in their respective sport, and then they transitioned into professional wrestling. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I think one that you could say over the last few years that has been a recent success has been Bianca Belair, who was an All-American track and field for Tennessee, came over to WWE, and now she's one of the biggest stars in the women's division on Monday Night Raw. I want to support this. I really do. But this is a way of saying, look, we're not taking guys and girls that have trained at actual wrestling schools, that have paid their dues on the road and want to give them contracts, give them opportunities. This is basically a way, if you think about it, of WWE kind of closing the door on the independent wrestlers and wrestlers who, maybe are in Impact, MLW, AEW, New Japan, could go on and on. And it's like, yeah, we don't need you guys. We can create stars from, collegiate athletics. That's basically what I'm getting from this. And it's kind of a 50-50 thing, because the way I see it, it's some will work, others will fail. It's probably going to be a lot of behind closed door situations where we're not going to hear the full detail of everything. But it'll be interesting to see who they get. Are they going to get football players? Are they going to get basketball players, gymnasts? track and field stars. And, they're not going to get big time names, for each and every one. They're just not going to do that. They're just going to end up getting these people. It's kind of like a scholarship, if you think about it, or an internship. And then if WWE thinks they're good enough, they're going to sign them into a contract. That's the best way to look at it. One more piece of news I want to talk about, and then I'm going to get into, or actually two things. And then I'm going to preview NXT WarGames. Another name has been added for the Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It was announced this week that Dave Prazak will be going into the Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame, which the ceremony will take place on January the 22nd. Excellent choice for the Hall of Fame there. Dave Prazak has been a very influential name for independent wrestling, especially for women's wrestling. His works with women's wrestling really began in IWA Mid-South, and then he transitioned into creating Shimmer Women Athletes, which is still going today, nearly 20 years later, and they've had, future stars, legends come into Shimmer at some point, work with Ring of Honor, and he's currently working with GCW, among other promotions. Dave Prazak, when history is written about women's professional wrestling, he should have an entire chapter to himself. Should have one big chapter on what he did for women's wrestling. Because believe me when I tell you, Dave Prazak has done a hell of a lot more for women's wrestling than Stephanie McMahon ever did, ever will, or ever claim. And Dave Prazak gets a round of applause for me for this honor. He has done so much for women's wrestling in the United States, and I feel he does not get as much credit as he should get for what he did for women's wrestling, basically reviving it from near extinction in the early 2000s into becoming its own, Shimmer being a big promotion, and then really, Sarah Del Rey, Beth Phoenix, like I mentioned, cheerleader Melissa, Madison Eagles, Kimberly, Mia Yim. The list just goes on and on and on. So many names. But it's cool to hear Dave Prazak getting this honor. Speaking of Hall of Fames, Mike Johnson of PW Insider wrote a terrific article today. And it is up on pwinsider.com, and it is under the Elite section of PW Insider. And he talks about whatever happened to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the one that began in Amsterdam, New York, Schenectady, New York, and then traveled down to Wichita Falls, Texas in 2015. A very good article. If you have the Elite subscription to PW Insider, I recommend reading this article. It is a wonderful article. And everyone should check it out. A terrific read, terrific writing by really one of the premier writers in all of professional wrestling in Mike Johnson. This Sunday night, it is NXT WarGames. There are no more takeovers. It is NXT WarGames. 5 matches on the card. And I'm going to go through all of them, and I will make my predictions as to who will win each of the 5 matches. So I will start off with the NXT Tag Team title match, where Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner will challenge Marcel Barthel and Fabian Eichner of Imperium. I think Imperium just recently won the titles, like a month and a half ago. So I'm going to say Imperium retains the tag team titles on that one. Next match is Duke Hudson against Cameron Grimes in a very rare hair versus hair match. Cameron is so over. He is just so over. He is popular. I can't see him losing this match. I'm going to say Cameron Grimes wins this match. Roderick Strong defends the Cruiserweight title against Joe Gacy. I've read some reports of there could be changes to that title, so I'm going to go with Joe Gacy winning the Cruiserweight title. And we have WarGames. We have 2 WarGames matches, one for the women, one for the men. Start with the women. 4-on-4. Listen to this lineup. Raquel Gonzalez, Io Shirai, Kaylee Ray, and Cora Jade are going to face Mandy Rose, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane, and Dakota Kai. Raquel Gonzalez's team won the one-woman advantage for the WarGames on TakeOver or on NXT this week. This is an interesting match because, Mandy Rose and her group, they've kind of been on a roll as of late, and Dakota Kai brings some experience to the WarGames for that team. You know what? I'm going to say Mandy Rose's team wins the WarGames on this one. Because I think if that team loses, maybe the momentum that the group has had goes downhill. Very big possibility there. And the other WarGames match, and this is the big one. This is the big one for a number of reasons. It is the new generation of NXT against, I guess you could say, the old veterans. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Pete Dunne, and LA Knight will face Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker, Tony D'Angelo, and Grayson Waller. Team Hayes won the one-man advantage for the WarGames this week on NXT. So, talked about it last week. Johnny Gargano did sign an extension. It ends in 1 week on December 10th. This could go a long way into determining or telling us if Gargano is leaving or not. But I see Team Hayes winning the WarGames. I actually see the heels winning both of the WarGames. So this one I think will be the better of the two because there's a lot of build-up, and who knows, this could be the last NXT match Gargano has. We really don't know, but it will be very interesting to see what will happen at NXT WarGames. So that will do it for another episode. But before we go, gotta do the plugs and gotta give you guys the recommendations of podcasts you should check out. Of course, if you guys have any questions or comments, send an email, wrestlingman@thatwrestlingshow.com. Don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at WrestlingShow11. Follow us on Instagram. Just type in That Wrestling Show and you are right there. And don't forget to join our Facebook group, That Wrestling Show fan group, where we talk about pro wrestling. There's so much put up, and check it out. A wonderful group right there. Now, the podcast you guys should check out, starting with our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast with Joe Murata and Michael Quinn. This week on the show in the It Worked Everywhere But New York segment, I know I'm getting the name of it wrong, but it's okay. They talk about Sting. Plus, it is the final week of the Royal Rankings of the best WWF pay-per-views, and they review Countdown to the Crowning. And, again, these guys are the only podcast I do this for. If you're looking for good Patreon material, sign up to theirs, because this weekend, for their highest tier, $5, their review of the 1994 King of the Ring is coming out this weekend. Yes, with Art Donovan. I wonder how many times we're going to get to hear how much does this guy weigh on the podcast. Should be pretty fun. Speaking of pretty fun, check out Greetings from Allentown with Peter Winston. This week, he and Keithy do another GFA Live, and they go a different route this week. Instead of doing an episode of pro wrestling, they do a movie. It is 1992's My Cousin Vinny. That is this week on Greetings from Allentown. Check out Juice Pro Wrestling, where this week Mike DeSalvo is back, and they discuss his new music, plus beers, relocating back to the States, and so much more. That is this week on Juice Pro Wrestling. And we have a brand new podcast for everyone to check out. It is the Memphis Continental Wrestling Cast, done in the UK. Join as one individual, one man watches Memphis wrestling, and he kind of does his own commentary. And he is right now, he just started a few weeks ago, 1981 Memphis Wrestling, and I love Memphis Wrestling. The DVDs from High Spots many years ago. Check it out. The Memphis Continental Wrestling Cast. You really won't regret listening to that podcast. If you're looking for non-wrestling related podcasts, check out the Best Pick Movie Pod with Tom, John, and Jess. This week they are joined by Garrett Millerick as they discuss Dr. No. That is this week on the Best Pick Movie Podcast. Also check out the Castle Vault, where this week they discuss Spider-Man Homecoming. That is this week on the Castle Vault. Also check out Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, where this week they go into the archives from an interview in 2011 where they interviewed longtime keyboard player Ruben Valtierra. Plus, and this is big for us Weird Al fans, it came out today, Weird Al announces a brand new tour for 2022. Dave and Ethan are going to talk about the news of Weird Al's 2022 tour. He's going to have a stop at the Kennedy Center in D.C. and in Carnegie Hall in New York City in October. So check it out, Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. Also, check out Escape from Walt Disney, where this week they're watching some more National Geographic content as they are watching Birth of Europe Season 1 Episode 3. Oh God, this sounds fascinating. Birth of Europe this week on Escape from Walt Disney. Check out the Three Stooges Throwback with Gabe Russo, where he watches each and every Three Stooges short. This week he watches Mutts to You. That is this week on the Three Stooges Throwback. Also check out Bill Learns Kingdom Hearts, where myself and Jim, we discuss Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. This week, we start our story with Riku. And finally, check out Sharks Pond, a South Park podcast where I watch and discuss each and every South Park episode. Just started Season 14 last week. This week, I review the Season 14 episode, The Tale of Scrody McBoogerballs. That is this week on Sharks Pond, a South Park podcast. All right, next week on the show, going to discuss what happened with NXT WarGames and if anything big happens there. Plus, going to preview Ring of Honor's Final Battle 2021, the end of an era. Going to be a very emotional show, I think, for a lot of us who have followed Ring of Honor for a very long time. That's going to be a very emotional night on December the 11th. Plus, going to give you some wrestling news. And, you know, I talked about how the theme kind of this week was change. I will be announcing in a few weeks some changes that are going to be made to the podcast. And This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but you guys are going to hear it in a few weeks, what it is. Nothing earth-shattering. Let me say that. It's nothing earth-shattering. It's just something I wanted to do for a long time, but you guys will hear about it in a few weeks. So on that note, everybody have a good, safe weekend. Have fun doing whatever it is you do. And come back next week for another episode of That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. And as always, wrestle on.